Clark is getting back on the golf course again this offseason, participating in the Annika golf outing. And she has a couple of caddies that are going to be taking the course alongside her in the form of Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull. Sophie and Lexie kind of called this shot, or especially Sophie did, back before when it was first announced that Caitlin was going to do this event again.
All right, so Caitlin Clark just snagged 2 caddies for her golf tournament. And get this, one of them is Sophie Cunningham. Remember her? She's the player everyone thought might be leaving the Indiana Fever. Now, she's actually showing up to carry golf clubs for Clark. Meanwhile, the whole WNBA offseason has been so quiet. It's like the league totally went into hiding. Has a sports league ever just lost your attention that fast? Like you forgot it even existed?
You could get into the comments section. You see there's Caitlin Clark with Nelly Korda, who, was impressed with Caitlin's poise on the golf course last year, even with the crowds, and said she got into women's basketball because of Caitlin. Sophie Cunningham says, Caitlin Clark need a couple of caddies. Lexie Hull with the smiling face or whatever that is, and some beer cheers. And Lexie Hull says, sign us up. And you thought that was the end of it, right? At least I did. I did not think we'd be revisiting that. Just felt like the cute little remnants of the Instagram comments section. But it has actually happened.
Okay, so here's the deal. Caitlin Clark is playing in a celebrity golf tournament. That's totally normal, right? Athletes do stuff like that in the off-season when they're not training or doing whatever else they do away from the cameras. For this particular tournament, she needed caddies, but not just any caddies. She wanted guest caddies. You know, to make the whole event more interesting for the fans and the media watching.
We also have the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, bringing Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham along for the ride as golf caddies at her golf.
And those guest caddies? Enter Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham. Both are Caitlin's teammates from the Indiana Fever. They're spending a day on the golf course, carrying clubs, and maybe even dishing out advice on which iron to use. On the surface, this just looks like a fun, lighthearted off-season activity. Players hanging out, showing off those good relationships they have off the court. Totally normal, right? But here's where it gets really interesting. Sophie Cunningham's future with the Fever has been pretty up in the air. People have been speculating if she'll even stay with the team, or if she's happy there. Does the organization value her enough to keep her around? And what's crazy is that through all this uncertainty, the Fever's social media has posted barely anything about Sophie. Like almost nothing. That really made people wonder if something was going on behind the scenes.
Now taking her talents to the golf course, where she will join Clark for the Annika Pro-Am tournament next week. Unlike Clark, however, Cunningham will not play in the tournament. She and Fever teammate Lexie Hull have committed to be Clark's guest.
So, when Sophie actually shows up as Caitlin's caddy at this golf tournament, everyone starts reading into it. Maybe this means she's sticking with the Fever. Maybe it's a sign that their relationships are good. Could it be proof the team plans to keep her? Or, look, maybe Sophie just didn't have anything else planned that day, and she thought carrying golf clubs sounded like fun. Who knows, right?
Caitlin Clark has opened up the opportunity for both Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull to be a part of this huge non-basketball, I said non-basketball event. So again, when you talk about Caitlin Clark opening things up for other people, it's not just on the basketball court. That is the kind of influence.
All right, so the announcement for this came from GameBridge, which is linked to the Indiana franchises and the Fever organization. They officially posted that Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull would be caddying for Caitlin Clark. Plus, they'd be alongside professional golfer Nelly Korda and Lauren Yen. The event is set for November 12th, so fans have about a week to get hyped about watching basketball players pretend they know golf. But here's the thing. This should be a much bigger deal than it is. Think about a year ago. If you told people Caitlin Clark was playing in a celebrity golf tournament with her teammates as caddies, that would have been national news. It would be trending everywhere. Articles, discussions, the whole thing would have been a massive event. But now, it's just kind of happening, and most people aren't really paying attention. What's crazy is that brings us to the real story here. The WNBA offseason has been incredibly quiet. The league that was everywhere last year, breaking viewership records and selling out arenas, getting constant media coverage, has basically just vanished from public conversation. And honestly, that's a problem. Remember where we were a year ago? Caitlin Clark was still in college, but the hype for her joining the WNBA was absolutely massive. Every game she played pulled in millions of viewers. Every interview became a hot topic. People who'd never watched women's basketball were suddenly hooked. She was riding a huge wave of momentum, and it felt like it could change everything for the league. Then the season happened. Caitlin joined the Fever, and yeah, she brought huge attention. Things seemed to be going well. Viewership was up, attendance was up, merchandise sales were through the roof. But somewhere along the way, that momentum just died. And now, in the offseason, when teams should be building on that interest and keeping fans engaged, everything has just gone silent. Nothing's happening. No big trades, no major announcements, no storylines to follow. Sure, the offseason in any sports league can be slow, but the WNBA really needed to keep that energy going. They had these new fans, casual fans, who were interested but not quite committed yet. Those fans needed reasons to stay engaged. Instead, they got silence. On top of that, there's the other problem: how the league handled Caitlin Clark during the season. There was just constant negativity, some racist stuff, so much drama around her. Other players made comments. Analysts questioned her impact. People debated if she even deserved all that attention. And for new fans watching all this, it was just exhausting. They tuned in to watch basketball, and instead, they found themselves in the middle of some weird cultural battle that had nothing to do with the actual games. I heard someone who works in NBA media apparently said it's become problematic in the WNBA to not hate Caitlin Clark. Which is wild, right? In the NBA, if you're constantly hating on LeBron James, like Skip Bayless does, you're seen as a troll, but you're still part of the conversation. In the WNBA, though, apparently the public perception is that if you're not constantly criticizing Caitlin, you're a bad person. That's just not a healthy environment for a league trying to grow. And that's probably why so many fans just checked out. They didn't want all the drama and negativity. They just wanted to watch good basketball and support the players they liked. Instead, they got a league that seemed more interested in internal conflicts than building on its momentum. Now we're in the off-season, and the interest has just tanked. Things that would have been massive stories a year ago barely get any attention now. Caitlin playing golf with her teammates as caddies should be a fun story. It should keep fans engaged. But instead, it's just a minor blip that most people won't even notice. But here's the thing. The Sophie Cunningham angle is in. She's genuinely been one of the more important pieces for the Fever. She brings shooting, toughness, and experience. She's exactly the kind of veteran presence a young team needs. But there's been this weird situation where some fans want her gone for reasons that have nothing to do with basketball. And that's exactly the kind of nonsense that's been plaguing the league. So, the fact that Sophie is showing up as Caitlin's caddy could be seen as a positive sign. Maybe it means she's happy with the team. Maybe relationships are strong. Could it mean the Fever are going to prioritize keeping her? Or again, maybe it just means absolutely nothing, and she's being a good teammate by helping out at a golf tournament. Reading too much into these things is how we just end up with more drama. You know, Lexie Hull being there makes total sense. She's been Caitlin's teammate, they have a good relationship, and she seems like someone who'd be up for a fun off-season activity. No drama there, just a player supporting her teammate at an event. But the whole situation really highlights how much things have changed in just 1 year. Last season, literally anything involving Caitlin Clark became a massive story. She couldn't do anything without it being analyzed, discussed, and debated everywhere. Now she's playing in a celebrity golf tournament with her teammates, and it's barely registering with the general public. Part of that is natural, of course. The novelty wears off, people move on. Sports always have cycles of interest, but the WNBA just can't afford that kind of drop-off. They really needed to turn those casual fans into committed fans. They needed to keep that momentum going. Instead, they just let it slip away. And you know, that comment about Paige Burker's fans being like K-pop stans, who just retweet things with Sabrina Carpenter profile pictures but don't actually watch games. Honestly, that's pretty accurate. There's a lot of social media noise around women's basketball that just doesn't translate to actual viewership or attendance. And those metrics, those are what really matter more than trending hashtags. Right now, those metrics are down. The idea that if Lexie Hull had been announced as Caitlin's caddy a year ago, it would have been national news? That's probably true. Everything was news then. Every connection between players, every off-season activity, Every social media post grabbed headline. Now it's just another thing happening that most people aren't paying attention to. And that's really unfortunate for everyone involved. The players worked so hard to build that momentum. Caitlin Clark specifically brought so much attention to the league, but that attention wasn't properly managed or sustained. Now we're in this weird place where the offseason just feels dead, and the excitement that existed only months ago seems like a distant memory. The golf tournament itself should actually be fun. Caitlin's pretty good at golf, which makes sense, since a lot of basketball skills transfer to the golf swing. Having her teammates there as caddies definitely adds a social element that makes it more entertaining. If people actually watch or pay attention, it'll probably be a good time. But the fact that we're even questioning whether people will pay attention, that's the real problem. This is Caitlin Clark, the player who shattered viewership records, who sold out arenas, who had absolutely everyone talking about women's basketball. And now, an off-season event with her teammates is something that might just go unnoticed. That's a huge drop in interest in a very short amount of time. The WNBA desperately needs to figure out how to keep fans engaged during the off-season. They need storylines, content, reasons for fans to stay connected. Other leagues do this so well. The NBA offseason, for example, is almost as interesting as the regular season with free agency, trades, summer league, and constant news. The WNBA offseason has been mostly silent, and that silence is just killing the momentum they worked so hard to build. And look, Sophie Cunningham's presence at this event shouldn't be analyzed as some major clue about her future with the team, but it is being analyzed that way because there's so little else happening. When there's no real news, people just start reading into every small thing. That's not healthy for the league, or for the players. And the Fever organization's social media barely posting about Sophie is weird though. If she's an important part of the team, why aren't they promoting her more? If they want to keep her, shouldn't they be showing that she's valued? That lack of social media presence could mean nothing at all, or it could be a sign of something going on internally. Either way, it's created speculation that probably didn't even need to exist. The broader issue is that the WNBA had something truly special happening, and they just couldn't sustain it. They had mainstream attention, new fans, real momentum, but poor decisions, unnecessary drama, and a lack of engagement during the off-season just let all that slip away. Now we're basically back to a league that most people aren't even thinking about. And that's a huge missed opportunity. Caitlin Clark playing golf with her teammates should be a fun story that keeps fans engaged during these quiet months. Instead, it's barely making waves, and that really tells you everything about where the league's attention has gone. Hopefully things will pick up when the season gets closer. But right now, the WNBA offseason seriously feels like everyone just forgot it exists. So yeah, Caitlin Clark got Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull as her golf caddies, and the WNBA offseason still feels about as exciting as watching paint dry. A year ago, this would have been huge news, right? Now it's just something happening while everyone's attention is somewhere else entirely.